Get ready for some Big Willie style double strength as we meet a Gemini Man. Chris Morris thinks the day has come, and we get Abominable with a Yeti named Everest. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Becks Perfect, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies. Boom.
Welcome to Off Screen. So, movies. Let's have some.
There are some.
There are some. It's so weird. Are you having this thing at the moment where, because of LFF and the sort of early Oscar buzz and all that stuff, you're starting to lose track of which films are out when?
Do you know what? I am not doing LFF this year.
Are you not doing it this year?
I'm not. No. So I just thought I'd take a break. I've done it like every single year, and I thought to myself, you know what? Take a break. Take it easy. You're in that middle-age world now.
I'm just having the weirdest time because I keep seeing really great movies that aren't out for like 3 months.
Yeah, I think by the time I would have to review them, I'd lose track and like I'd have to rewatch them. So I'm kind of like, I'm just going to watch it fresh, closer to the time. It's okay. I can cope.
That's it, because you know you'll see them again, like closer to release anyway. But it's sort of just for fun kind of thing. You see them now, but you do see some belters, I will say.
Oh, good.
Well, let's start with one this week then. I don't think
Not
either of
a
us.
belter.
Not a belter. Not a belter at all. So, and this, let's do some setup on this, because this is the latest film from Chris Morris.
Yeah.
Who brought us, Brass Eye.
Yeah.
One of the high watermarks of British satirical comedy, followed by Four Lions.
Yeah.
One of the high watermarks of British satire. And now we have The Day Shall Come. So I don't even know where to begin with this plot.
I kind of wish the day didn't come.
Fair.
Look, first and foremost, this is getting a mixed bag of reviews. So it's Marmite to a lot of people. So this movie is about a poor preacher from the Miami projects whose family is about to be evicted. He's then offered cash to save kind of his church or reimagining of a church and his home.
That's putting it mildly, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. And has no idea that the cash that's being given to him is by the FBI, who actually plan to turn him into a criminal by fueling his revolutionary dreams.
Tell me, Razor, what cash you talking about?
My uncle.
Star jump.
My uncle from the Middle East, he very much admires your work.
My work? From the Middle East?
My uncle comes to the Holiday Inn.
We don't need to get hustled by your imaginary Uncle Razor.
He is not imaginary. He is real. He is a mujahideen.
What's his name, Uncle Scam?
So for me, there were some bits where I heard a few people in the screening chuckle.
I chuckled a few times. There are, but
couple.
they're not deep laughs though.
No.
They're chuckles.
Yeah, they are chuckles. And I think the comparisons with Four Lions are quite obvious in here. It's nothing new in that respect. It's kind of a decade in the making of doing the same thing but setting it in Miami.
But that's the thing for me as well. I thought the human character level of Four Lions was really how that film worked so well.
Yeah.
It really invested you in those characters, even characters like Barry in Four Lions, the antagonist.
Do you think
of
it's
them.
because it's also partly because we're British?
I suppose there is that barrier to it, but I think there's enough of Chris Morris's ability and talent there. I mean, for me, I thought a lot of Armando Iannucci. Gave us a Death of Stalin and In the Loop, the film adaptation of The Thick of It, and currently is just wrapping up Veep.
Do you know what? Really funny that you mention In the Thick of It, because I thought the collection of misfits that were the FBI agents were kind of in the thick of it, American Office style.
That's literally Veep.
Yeah.
And I sat there and thought, this feels like a watered down Four Lions for the terrorist side of the story. And it feels like the less funny outtakes from a season of Veep, like a Veep box set for the FBI scenes.
Yeah.
And they were crashing together.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm trying to work out why. I mean, this really does have a mixed bag of reviews. It really is Marmite as a film. For me, that kind of humour I'm not into anyway, particularly. So I like the more basic slapstick comedy. So I don't really love that as it is, so it's a push for me anyway. But then, I liked the quirky character of the main preacher. He rides about on a horse. He's
there's a shower curtain, doesn't
The
he?
shower curtain. There were some funny moments. There's a moment where he meets, I suppose, an informant or a plant from the FBI, and he's sat on a table like a prophet. And you kind of go, it's so ridiculous. But then you lose the context of it, and it just all feels a bit like, I know exactly where this is going to go. I know the outcome. He's obviously trying to send a message. We see that just before the end credits as well. And it's just a bit like you kind of leave going, meh.
I think for me, it comes down to the intention of it. And I think the intention, if I'm reading it right, is that Chris Morris has tried to create his own kind of Doctor Strangelove. His idea of this scenario so ridiculous, but then treating it as if it's general office admin and descending into chaos that way.
But he says it's based on 100 different stories.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where are you going with this? Like 100 different stories that don't exactly gel together and make one.
Quite. Although there's some of the elements, like you say, with the central characters. Is it Moses? I'm trying to remember
Moses.
who
His character's name's Moses.
Marchant Davis, who I didn't recognise from anything actually.
No, I'm not. I think this is his first lead role, actually.
One person I did recognise in there was Danielle Brooks, who plays
you didn't recognise Anna Kendrick?
Oh no, she sticks out. She sticks out because I'm just wondering why I'm not hearing her sing "No Diggity" every time I see her. But she's that iconic
or the
to
Cup
me.
song.
Yeah, exactly. But Kavan Novak, you notice, turns up from Four Lions.
Yeah, and also, anyone who watches UK sketch shows will recognise him there. But the thing is with him, I just feel like he's in there just because he is, right? You get these informants that are dropped in for comedic effect, and there's no real, it doesn't tie him in. Like, he's supposed to be this guy who essentially he has been caught by the police for sleeping with underage girls, and therefore instead of him having a hugely long prison sentence, they're offering him this out.
Yeah, he works as an informant.
Yeah.
He works it off as an informant, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And they do have a very dark amount of fun with that element, it must be said.
Do you know what the funniest bit of this movie for me was? The very beginning, where it's like this pool party. And
yes.
And you've got essentially a terrorist in a golf caddy and the FBI in disguise.
And of course. Yeah.
Desperately trying to get him to press the numbers so they can prove.
It's a really good scene, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really good scene. And it plays out really well, and it's just long enough that it doesn't get excruciating.
That felt very Death of Stalin, very un-Iron for me.
Yeah.
Just want to point out Danielle Brooks as Moses' wife, because she turned up recently in a show I was watching, Year of the Rabbit.
I liked her.
And I think she's tremendous.
Yeah.
I think
Not enough of her in this.
No, I think there could have been more of her, and I think if it had been more of a balanced film, maybe the genre hopping might have worked a little better.
Yeah.
But as it is, having two 50% movies smashing against one another.
I think for me, Chris Morris, it's kind of like, I call this kind of the Baz Luhrmann effect, right? Where you reach an absolute pinnacle, and then you keep trying to recreate the same thing, and it's done. It's of its time. So Chris Morris with Four Lions, Brass Eye, all this kind of stuff. It was back in the time. It's a decade since Four Lions. It sits in British culture as this kind of cult phenomenon film.
Is it like reviving Red Dwarf every year? Like this
kind of is, yeah. And it's like just leave it. It's timeless in a way. It's still prevalent to watch that movie, so we don't need to see it just set in Miami.
We don't need more Only Fools and Horses revivals. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah. And that is the big shame about this, is that you've got so much going on in this movie that doesn't really piece together, and it makes for more of a clunky film. And because of the expectations of the previous movies and TV shows that he's done,
of course.
People might be flocking it, particularly if you're a Chris Morris fan. But to be honest, last week we talked about two very brilliant films, and if you're thinking about spending your money and you haven't seen Joker yet, I'd say go back and watch that
Judy,
instead of this
course,
one. And Judy,
So, thumbs up, thumbs down from you?
2 thumbs down for me.
Thumbs down?
I really didn't enjoy this.
Okay, I'm going with like 1/2 a thumb. I'm going for the full Commodus when I say this. 1 thumb at halfway.
1 thumb at halfway, that's generous, I think.
I think so.
So, I love the concept of a lovely little abominable snowman.
Well, this is the weird thing, because, they're like buses. You wait for one and then 2 come along at once, because we've only just had Smallfoot.
Yeah.
And that was Chantete, wasn't it?
Chantete, I like how you put that.
Yeah, Chantete.
It's like every girl would say it that way.
Exactly, yeah. Well, he's a dreamboat. But I see White House Down like twice a week just because it's always on telly when I'm working.
Oh, yeah, that's what they all say.
Yeah. So, with Sony Movie Channel, man, they have like 4 movies they rotate.
It's okay, we're all fans
day.
of Channing Tate.
No, come on, I'm all about that movie fighting. Little scene. Anyway, he's not in Abominable, that's the point, which is the second.
I'm glad we've just spent 30 seconds on that.
We have. I'm flushed in the face now. My school
I'm going to go and book
crushed.
that Magic Mike ticket once again.
So Abominable, which is the Armageddon to Smallfoot's Deep Impact.
Okay, good.
This
Nice.
is a very different animal, no pun intended, and it is about a young girl who's voiced by Chloe Bennett, who starred in Nashville, currently stars as part of the Marvel TV universe through
There's
Agents
so
of
many
S.H.I.E.L.D.
universes.
And she's very good, and she plays a young girl named Yi. The story is set in China. An abominable snowman, a yeti, escapes from like a scientific lab at the beginning of the movie, finds his way onto Yi's rooftop. Yi is getting ready for that point when she's about sort of like graduate up to college level. She wants to go and explore the world and take the trip of her dreams.
Okay.
She comes across this abominable snowman, and she and her friends, once they're introduced to him, go on this wild adventure to return this yeti, who they name Everest, back to his home, which is, guess where?
The Alps?
Hey, what are you doing out here? Someone's gonna see you. Where did you get that? No. Get back now. Do you hear me? Let go.
Does not make sense. Why would they take it to the roof?
Guys, what are you doing up here?
Hey, get away from her!
Wait.
Okay, I'm calling the police.
He's not dangerous. Look at him. He's a Yeti.
Cool. What? No, Yetis don't exist.
What do you mean Yetis don't exist?
He's literally staring one in the face.
Yeah,
But,
whatever. This sounds cute.
It is very cute. It is very cute.
Is that it? Is it just cute?
No, it's actually really likable. There's something about it. It has... I mean, the actual animation quality is quite high-end as
Oh,
well. This is
good.
a DreamWorks film. It doesn't particularly look as kind of fresh off the software deck as DreamWorks films can do. I find things like Shrek quite sort of amateurly put together sometimes.
Okay.
But this is definitely one of the more we're shooting for Pixar-grade animation, but without quite that A-grade material. This is more like a B-minus material.
Okay, that's interesting, because I was just about to say, with it being a DreamWorks movie, I haven't seen much about it.
Well, I don't think it is actually originally aimed for Western audiences. Obviously, it plays very well to Western audiences, because obviously I'm part of one. But it is, like I say, it is set in China. It has a largely Chinese cast. It has a few token Western names in there. So Chloe Bennett, for instance, is a great bridge there, because she is a Chinese-American actress.
Right.
Who just happens to have this pre-existing fan base through Marvel and Agent Coulson and all that stuff. And he's now doing it in cartoon form as part of this aimed at young girls line.
Yeah, which is
you've
good,
got-
because to be honest, I suppose with the name Chloe Bennett, if you weren't familiar with who she is, it's good to know that they've got the cultural appropriation right, in that she is...
Funny you say that, because
Like-
this is a bit of a segue. When
Okay.
Me Too started and women were coming forward with their stories of discrimination, she
Yeah.
came out and revealed that her name was in fact Chloe Wang.
Oh.
And that she changed it because she simply was getting passed up for roles, and that changed instantly once. You know, that kind of
That's
thing.
really interesting.
So you've also got Sarah Paulson and Eddie Izzard in there.
I love both of them.
Eddie Izzard steals it, obvs.
Obs. But Sarah Paulson?
Yeah, Sarah Paulson, and that's very, very kind of Incredibles kind of style to that character. I had a lot of fun with it. I saw it on a Sunday morning with an adult friend of mine. We whooped and cheered.
I'm just going to remind everyone listening that a Sunday morning screening
It's filled with kids.
is for kids.
It is.
Not for you and your adult mate who have obviously taken advantage of some face painting that time of the morning.
I'm not going to deny that happened, but we had a good time. We were singing along to Coldplay when we left.
Okay.
It was cute. It was cuddly. It gets you a little misty-eyed at one point. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, so
Really
how many
enjoyed
thumbs up, thumbs down would you give it?
1.5 from me.
Wow, that is an awkward angle that you've
Awkward
just
angle,
put up
awkward
there.
angle, isn't it? It's kind of like an L shape with your fists.
There we
Yeah.
go. So that is Abominable. It's out Friday and it's rated U, so you can take the little kiddies with you.
Exactly, as we probably should have done. Now that we
Yes,
think
you
about
really
it.
should
Yeah,
have done.
yeah.
Moving on, we're going to get into some double trouble now, because we've got Gemini Man, and in fact, you know what? There's a whole heap of trouble with this. This also is out on Friday. It's rated a 12A. It is kind of the big film that everyone's kind of talking about this week. You've probably seen it on every single bus around, because it's directed by Ang Lee. It is essentially Will Smith versus Will Smith, as he plays Henry Brogan, an elite assassin who becomes the target of this mysterious operative who can basically predict his every move. So he then learns that the man who's trying to kill him is actually a younger, faster, and wait for it, cloned version of himself.
I'm guessing 19, 20 years old, the first time he ordered you to shoot a person. 25 years ago, he took my blood. He made you from me. He's been been lying to you the whole time. He told you you were an orphan. And of all the people in the world to come after me, why would he send you? Because I'm the best. You are obviously not the best. You're just trying to rattle me. I'm trying to save you!
So, for anyone that is in any doubt from those drum beats in that clip, it is in fact an action flick.
From Ang Lee, no less.
I know.
And that had me hype. That
Yeah.
did. Because
Will Smith as well.
I mean, even beyond that, just
Okay.
Ang Lee doing an action film, like, oh my God, this could be like when John Woo did Face Off, and we get
Yeah.
something truly epic out of it.
Because it's Ang Lee.
Yeah, but you know, it's one of those things where this has apparently been in development for more than 20 years. Like it's taken them more than 20 years to get this to screen because of the visual effects involved.
Well, do you know what? All this morning, as I've been reviewing this movie, the way I've sort of led into it is to say, if you think of one of those 90s action flicks that is so totally bonkers that you kind of go, okay, I'm just going to forgive its premise because it's the 90s. And, you know, by you giving it the context of saying it's been 20 years in the making, it's because it was made in the 90s.
Well, this is the thing. Actually, it reminded me very much of a film that came out back in 2000, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, called The Sixth Day.
Never heard of it.
Arnie gets cloned.
Oh.
That's the plot of the movie. He gets cloned when he's presumed dead in an accident, and the clone gets put in his place, and he shows up, and they basically go to war, and it all involves the guy who created the clone, much like this does. You know, this film that apparently has been rewritten, but as you point out so succinctly, hasn't really evolved much since the late 90s.
No, it hasn't indeed. And the thing is, well, I'm interested with that Arnie film to see how they did the de-aging, because
they didn't de-age. It was just to replace him there and then.
Oh, so he did shot against a tennis ball, essentially.
Kind of,
yeah, okay, fine. That might have worked better in probably the last scene of this movie, because I have to say, I thought the de-aging worked quite well. We get full-on Fresh Prince vibes in this. Oh, hang on.
Can I tell you something amazing about this?
Okay.
It's not de-aging.
What?
It's not de-aging.
What is it?
This is the misnomer. It's not. Will Smith does both performances, right? When he does the younger ones, he's wearing like a high-end GoPro pointed back at himself with loads of digital markers embedded on his.
So it's motion capture.
So it's motion capture, and they have then animated it from scratch, but with the exact markers in place where they would be on a real Will Smith. So it's basically the most advanced motion capture anyone has ever come up with.
Well, do you know what? Everyone just thinks it's de-aging.
I know, right? Marvel spoiled us. That's what it was.
I know, but actually, it really worked well up until that end scene. And then I was like, his face looks a bit funny.
Yeah.
And that ruined it a little bit for me. But there's lots of things that ruin this movie for me.
It's the basic, man.
Yeah, so I could forgive the premise of this and the fact that it hasn't evolved since the 90s, because I can take it or leave it with something that's a bit wacky and out there. The problem I've got with this movie is the high frame rate in which it is shot.
Oh God, yes.
Okay, I don't like watching movies in 3D first and foremost. I don't. It doesn't add anything for me.
What did we get? We got IMAX, 3D, 4K, 120
Yeah.
frames.
I've got a headache, I'll tell you that now. But for anyone that doesn't kind of understand how this all works, so normally you'd shoot a film in 24 frames per second.
Exactly,
and for me, when I go to a movie, I want to be immersed, I want to have a bit of escapism, so you kind of see that you're not watching something that is right in front of you as if you were looking at your own hand. You know, it's not something like that. However, when you increase the frame rate, and I think we saw this in one of the Lord of the Rings movies.
The Hobbits movies.
The Hobbits movies, yeah.
Ang Lee also did it with his last film, Billy Lynn's Halftime Walk.
Right. Okay. Well, the thing is that
saw it.
when with good reason, if anyone's seen that Hobbit movie, you will see the detail on the prosthetics is huge, and you kind of go, it doesn't look. It looks like you're walking into a rehearsal, and that's exactly what you get here. The problem is that it's too real. You get this ultra real look. The high frame rate does that. It ultimately looks incredibly budget, because he shot it on 120 frames per second.
He did, so that you could have 60 frames in each eye.
Yeah, it's supposed to balance itself out. It
doesn't.
absolutely doesn't.
No.
You see the jolts of the camera. You don't get the atmosphere that's put in with like grading, color saturation, all that kind of stuff. You lose it, and it looks like an episode of Hollyoaks.
Do you know what? It's funny you end there as well, because that's the thing. Because there's been a big backlash from filmmakers in the last sort of year, 2 years about motion blurring.
Yeah.
Motion plus or whatever it's called, which smooths out the motion. And a lot of filmmakers, including I believe Joseph Kosinski, who's directing the Top Gun sequel, he and Tom Cruise released a video asking for this to be a standard thing. Please turn it off. Don't watch our films in this. They're not meant to look like they're happening in front of you. They're not meant for the soap opera effect. And it is weird to me that there is a film of this scale released in what is literally cinema's equivalent because it looks no different.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So, thumbs up, thumbs down from you. What you
Absolutely
got?
thumbs down. I'm feeling really miserable this week.
We'll have some fun. With
No, I
the rest
know.
of it.
I'd still say last week when you have such a high of a 5-star movie and a 4-star movie, it can't maintain it. So you have to have a bit of a dud week, and that is this week, unfortunately.
1 out of 2 thumbs for me. That's purely for the visual effects, which I have to maintain.
All right, I'll give it half a thumb.
Yeah, they were great. We want to give a shout out to our friends at Runway East where we record this show. They're on a mission to provide the world's best office space for startup teams and, well, they're doing pretty damn well at it. I'm partial to the roof garden myself. They're in London Bridge, Soho, Moorgate, very zen places to work. Give them a peep at runwayea.st. That's runwayea.st.
And back into Off-Screen we go. Deep diving into your movies on TV, we have your 7-day guide to everything on the small screen, kicking off this Saturday on ITV4 at 10:05 p.m. to be precise, with Passenger 57.
I love Passenger 57. You know what? Did you ever see this one when you were a kid?
No. Do you know what? I was thinking of United 93. Totally different film.
Very different film.
Yeah.
So this was like during that spree of Hollywood movies that were all like kind of low budget actioners, and they were all trying to do like Die Hard on air. So, like Seagal had Die Hard on an aircraft carrier on a warship with Under Siege. This was Wesley Snipes does Die Hard on a plane on which a transported fugitive mass murderer psychopath named Charles Rain happens to escape capture and take the plane hostage without happening to realise that an expert in airline security and anti-terrorism, played by Wesley Snipes as the brilliantly named John Cutter, happens to be, moving across the country for a new job. You can kind of guess what happens, and like all of these movies, you've got to have that really great scene when the enemy and the good guy get on the radio and they have that tete-a-tete.
Sounds much more palatable than United 93.
Much. But like all of these great movies, you got to have a kick-ass payoff line. To which I present to you.
Plan not working out the way you wanted?
Don't flatter yourself, Cutter. You prevented nothing. Although it seems I may have underestimated you.
Dumping the fuel was quite ingenious. At least Mr. Douglas's body won't have so far to fall now.
Well, maybe Vincent could hitch a ride with him on his way down. You know, Charlie, I'm a little surprised at you. Didn't your father ever teach you never send a boy to do a man's job?
Speaking of boys, our stewardess friend must be feeling particularly unsatisfied.
Charlie, you ever play roulette?
On occasion.
Well, let me give you a word of advice. Always bet on black.
What a line.
What a line.
That's Mark Lawrence quotes it in Bad Boys, I think. Also, not to be confused, this movie's not to be confused with 1996's Executive Decision. To date, I believe, the only movie in which Steven Seagal has ever been killed on screen.
What?
Yeah, so same movie.
Glad he's not being killed off screen.
Well, he's an endless source of amusement. So 10:05 on Saturday night, ITV4. Check that out. ITV4 got some belters this week.
Good.
So should we move on to Sunday? What we got?
Well, that comes after Saturday. Let's do it.
Does it now? I can never keep track of time. So Sunday night, what we got?
Okay, so we've got The Imitation Game on ITV at 1:30. Not at Sunday night. Sunday afternoon.
Oh, Sunday afternoon, of course, yes.
1:30 p.m, people, not a.m. And what that is a very, very good movie because, unbelievably, Keira Knightley got Oscar nominated in this, I think.
She gets some acclaim here and there, Ms. Knightley.
Maybe. But this is Benedict Cumberbatch's film. It's a story about Alan Turing and the Enigma machine. I remember being quite captivated by this movie.
I was. His performance is absolutely terrific.
Yeah.
The movie doesn't really hold back as regards very squarely taking shots at, the injustice that befell Alan Turing. And funnily enough, Turing does come up in another one of our TV picks later on as well. But this is on 1:30 on Sunday.
Yeah, it's a good afternoon film, I think. Yeah, especially if you don't know anything about the Enigma machine. It's worth a little bit of a lesson.
Very true. Over to Monday, then. A movie I absolutely adore. One I went to the pictures to see as a wee boy. And it's 9 p.m. on ITV4. And this is... I tell you what, I'm just going to drop the clip, and you will instantly know from the second line of this clip, just like a matter of iconography, exactly what flick we're talking about.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we have a problem. We have a main bus B undervolt. We've got a lot of thruster activity here in Houston. It just went offline. Oh, there's another master alarm, Houston.
I'm checking the quad.
Christ, there was no repress valve.
Maybe it's in quad
We've
C.
got a computer restart.
I'm gonna reconfigure the RCS.
We've got a
Where
pin
these
light.
things fire doesn't make any sense.
We got multiple caution and warning, Houston. We've got to reset and restart.
All right, I'm going to SDS.
You always know you're in safe hands with Tom Hanks, don't you?
do, don't you?
Yeah.
I'm still looking forward to the beautiful day in the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to watching this again. Again, like you, it's when I was a kid I watched this.
Oh, yes.
And, it's a great movie. Apollo 13. It's on ITV4 at 9 o'clock. Speaking of great movies, one of my all-time favourites is swinging its way with bright orange hair to your TV screens on Tuesday on Channel 5 at 11:05 p.m. Why is it on so damn late? It is, of course, The Fifth Element.
It's a nice film to fall asleep to, though.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think this is such a brilliant movie. It's so out there, so wacky. It's epic. Ugh, I love this in every single way, shape, or form. Almost as much as I love Total Recall.
Okay. Funny you say that, because that segues us to our next film on Wednesday night. Again, I'm just going to cue this up with a clip. Hang on.
You're not here to kill me. I figured that part out for myself. So what's the deal?
My mission is to protect you.
Yeah? Who sent you?
You did. 35 years from now, you reprogrammed me to be your protector here, in this time.
This is deep.
It's one of my favourite movies of all time. It is the movie that made me love movies. It is Terminator 2 Judgment Day, James Cameron's
masterpiece,
contender for greatest sequel of all time. Possibly rivaled only by Aliens, and I put those two above The Godfather 2.
Ooh, yeah. I gotcha. I love Aliens as well, but T2 Judgment Day. I mean, if you're ever gonna reconfigure a robot, you're gonna do it with an Austrian accent, aren't you?
Yeah, because they fit right in Southern California.
Exactly. It is an amazing film. Iconic in so many different ways.
And the reasoning for putting it on, which is to say it was ITV4 Wednesday night 9 p.m. The reasoning for putting it on is this is the 25th anniversary of the original Terminator this year.
Wow.
And so both T1 and T2 are being put back into cinemas. I believe the first is this Friday, and then the following Friday is Terminator 2, and they're both being put back into limited runs.
That's amazing.
In cinemas.
Do you know what? I love Terminator as well. I mean, I know that Terminator 2 is just the sequel
Oh,
to
it
end all
is, isn't
sequels, but I really did like Terminator as well. I think it's more gritty in a way.
I think so, definitely.
Yeah.
I also like how the first one's a horror movie and the second one's an action thriller.
Yeah.
Like very different things.
Absolutely, yeah. Moving on to Thursday, speaking of horrors, Transcendence is on Film 4 at 6:30. This is Johnny Depp being...
AI, isn't he?
It is AI.
Scanned into the computer or something.
You know, like in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where you've got that character, the baddie that's like the brain.
Krang.
That's it. Yeah, it's like that.
As Tina Fey said, nobody cares about Krang.
Nobody does care about Krang. And I had to re-look up this film, Transcendence, because I was just like, I can't remember what it is. I have seen it. Right. So basically, Johnny Depp, I think he's dead.
He's like a renowned AI scientist. Obviously, I haven't rewatched it before we've put this together.
Yeah.
I'm just doing this from memory, and I saw it, I think, 4 years ago on Revisit, like a year after it was out. He's like the world's greatest AI pioneer, like a Steve Jobs type in the making. Will Castor is his name. He gets shot, I think, and on the moment of death is able to have his consciousness uploaded into his experimental artificial intelligence algorithm, and he then grows vastly when he's connected to the internet and basically becomes the ultimate ghost in the machine, achieving the point of the singularity, when he transcends the human form through what we call the singularity, which is the point at which technology escapes all human ability. And there's a whole thing in the movie. Morgan Freeman explains it more eloquently than I could.
You can imagine it all goes Pete Tong.
It's not a bad movie, though. I think it's a bit basic, isn't it? It's a bit
for something that's so complex, it is a bit basic.
The hope for it was at the time, though, that it had been produced, I think, on some level by Christopher Nolan, and the director making his debut was Christopher Nolan's cinematography, Wally Pfister, who had been the cinematography and the DP on Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, and sort of the early Nolan films. So the idea was we were hoping this would lead to a second Nolan.
The problem is with something like that, when you just drop a name in like that, it's just the expectations are there, and if it can't live up to it, it just ruins the whole thing.
Don't we know it after the day shall come, eh?
Well, there we go. Yeah, we revert right back to the beginning of the podcast. There we go. Listen again, people, and hear our views. Finishing off the week.
Yeah, I mean, a belter.
A real belter. Mad Max, Fury Road, Channel 5, 10 o'clock. Get ready, start your engines.
I like this plan. We can start again. Just like the old days.
Look, It'll be a hard day. But I guarantee you that 160 days ride that way, there's nothing but salt. At least that way, you know, we might be able to, together, come across some kind of redemption.
You wonder who's ever going to take over from like Mel Gibson in this.
And he does a decent job, doesn't he?
Tom Hardy does it really. There was never another one, was there, with Tom Hardy?
No, it's something that keeps coming up. I think it's called Mad Max Wasteland. They are trying to get it going. It's still
trying to get him to come back, probably.
It's not even about that. I think it's about getting funding and distribution for it. Because I think Mad Max Fury Road is deemed as a lucky break rather than because nobody thought it would be as big as it was.
It was brilliant.
It was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Carnage candy. It was great.
I'm kind of sad that it's on the small screen in a way. So unless you've got one of those cinematic TV screens, you might not get the grandeur of it. I loved seeing this in the cinema. I think I saw it in IMAX.
Oh, it was designed for IMAX, wasn't it? And so much in the way of practical effects.
Yeah.
Just a wonderful visual experience as well.
Totally.
Oh, what a lovely day. Wonderful appearance from Nicholas Hoult there. And obviously the star of the show, Miss Charlize Theron.
Yeah, amazing.
So.
I mean, all of it was brilliant. I mean, that is your movies on TV. What a selection this week.
So yeah, round it all off, Channel 5, 10 p.m. Friday night with Mad Max Fury Road.
What a way to end the week. Now, moving on to DVDs, Blu-rays, or however you like to watch your movies.
We've got to add that in a small print, really, haven't we?
Video on demand. Basically, watch movies that's supposed to be in the cinema, haven't quite made it to TV, and you're going to watch it in your own home. Yeah. Okay, so that's what you've got.
Pre-Sky Cinema. Pre-Sky Cinema.
Yeah,
for being
exactly.
technical, yeah.
There's so much out there these days. It gives me such a headache. Released on Monday, we have Late Night kicking us off.
Did you enjoy this when you saw it?
Did I see it? Is this the Emma Thompson one?
Emma Thompson, Mindy Kaling one?
Did,
I
yes.
liked this as well.
I really liked this. I tell you why. Because it was sharply written. Emma Thompson was on fine form, and Mindy Kaling was excellent as well.
I think the only I pretty much feel like you did. I think the only drawback I had with it, the only con I could find was, I think with Mindy Kaling, and having seen so much of what she can do on TV, I expected it to be more pointed and a little bit more aggressive, I would say.
Okay, that's interesting.
Than it was.
Because I haven't seen a lot of Mindy Kaling on TV, and actually I just thought it was sharp because of so if you can up that even more, then I think that's a really positive thing.
Because Emma Thompson brings so much natural, charming acid with her, doesn't she?
But that's what she does so well. She can be your most likable person in the room or your least likable person in the room, and she can be terrifying. She's almost that kind of Meryl Streep character in The Devil Wears Prada in a way.
Very much so, almost, yes, but a more rounded, I think, immediately accessible.
Yeah,
one.
But what I think is really interesting in this is it looks at sort of ageism within within the world of television. It's also, I think there's a touch of women working in TV as well, just in general. So very up there with the Me Too movement and things like that.
Do you get the impression if it come out about 6 months later, there would have been more in the script kind of about that? Actually.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a solid few performances. Something that you kind of look at the poster and you go, oh, I'm really not that interested in it. But actually, when you go and watch it, it really is a nice surprise.
Because it's a white background leaning poster. That's what it is.
But it looks like Late Night with James Corden, doesn't it?
I think, well, that would be the intent.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll put me off.
From that to something a bit more of a boilerplate 90s style adult chiller type, Ma, the standard suburban psycho kind of movie.
I liked this movie.
I did as well, because Octavia Spencer, just a brilliantly fun villainess psycho, isn't she?
Yeah, she's like, everybody loves Ma. And it's like, yes, everybody kind of does, because you're giving them all free alcohol, and why wouldn't you?
Exactly that. And you know what? When she buys you free alcohol and she asks you to hang out, I think she kind of feels like you owe her one.
Well, who needs y'all? Girls. You guys want to party like rock stars or what?
No, I gotta clean the house up when my mom gets home. Hey, maybe next time. Damn, Ma, don't you got a job?
Yeah. I guess I should work a double since you guys don't have time for me.
Girl, you need a man.
Girl, you need to watch your mouth.
Ooh.
It's them eyes, isn't it? It's them crazy eyes.
Well, I always say I think she's got like pug eyes, where you think that if she's going to sneeze, her eyeballs might fall out.
But the thing is, this came out so close to Greta as well.
Yeah.
In which Isabelle Huppert played the psycho. I think this was about like a month later.
Yeah.
And it was great seeing these actresses, for very different roles, play very popcorn-friendly, 90s style Rebecca De Mornay psychopaths.
Yeah. Do you know what? The only thing about this movie, it does kind of start getting very generic towards the latter
Oh,
half
yeah,
of the
yeah.
movie.
They all do, though, don't they?
Yeah,
really?
but I think you're watching it for her performance in
Totally.
this, and I quite like the concept. So basically, she works as like a veterinary receptionist.
Something like that, yeah.
And then when she buys some alcohol for some kids in a local off-license, she kind of sees the power in that, which is a bit strange.
Creepy,
and she's like,
isn't it? Yeah.
it's really creepy. And then she's like, well, why don't you come to my basement and have parties there? And then suddenly she turns into like the cool mom.
Yeah, nothing odd about this story at all.
No, very, very strange.
Other than Juliette Lewis is now old enough to play someone's mom convincingly.
Oh, I know.
Because I still think of her as being about 22 years old
Yeah.
and playing teenagers.
Yeah.
But which is why she was so good.
She never ages for me.
She never does. So over to streaming this week, and
Yeah.
we've got 3 movies, massive movies, all out on the same day.
Right.
Right, this is insane.
I have not seen any of them.
Right, I know you will have heard of the first one, just amongst other film critics. Like, someone will have been to screenings of it and mentioned it.
It's not Nicole. No, that's the
No.
Paperboy. I'm thinking of the paper.
The Laundromat stars Gary Oldman, Antonio Banderas, and Meryl Streep. And it is directed by Steven Soderbergh. It is the story about the Panama Papers, how that came to light. Been getting huge buzz around like the LFF and screening, pre-LFF screenings, things like that. A lot of critics giving it's got a bit mixed kind of reception.
This year.
This has been going on for about.
So this is
6
not
weeks.
even going into the cinema at all.
No, it's a limit. It's had a limited cinematic release. I think.
Why with that?
I know.
With
but
that cast.
Because it's a Netflix movie, the limited theatrical window allows it to qualify.
This is
for
where
Oscars.
I think Netflix is it's gonna struggle a bit.
Well, we shall see, because one of the other pickings we have for that day is Paul Rudd's latest, in which Paul Rudd finds himself, and there just seems to be something in the water this week, cloned.
I woke up in a spa, went to work, and came home. I woke up in a grave, and then I walked for 6 hours to find whatever the you are. Now there's 2 me's, but there's 1 life.
So, what do you suggest we do?
Maybe he has a brain tumor. Inoperable, I hope.
He's better than me in everything. With work, with Kate.
Are you seriously jealous of you?
I mean, 2 Paul Rudds could be worse.
Why did my Google alerts not go off for my my specific I love Paul Rudd?
Your specific hashtag 90s gal.
Yeah, I mean, if
tag.
anything, I should have got double alerts if it's double trouble. For Paul Rudd.
Looks really funny. Does look quite funny. Ashlyn B plays his on-screen partner. I'm really looking forward to it.
Is this direct to
Netflix?
To Netflix.
Yeah, same again.
So this is why I think you have to really have your finger on the pulse with this. Like, I am totally focused on what is coming out in the cinema, and I know that unfortunately, to some extent, it's a bit of a dying art, isn't it?
Did you know the new Michael Bay movie is straight to Netflix?
No.
That's
what is
December.
Going on?
That
I love
stars
Netflix,
Ryan
though.
Reynolds as well. So it's like Ryan Reynolds in a Michael Bay movie, and it's the typical Michael Bay scale, and it's all for Netflix.
If you're not gonna look Netflix, if you're not gonna invest in a poster on the tube or the buses to promote your movies on the small screen, I ain't seeing them.
You wouldn't know, is it? 'Cause just, if you can't drop 3 big movies on the same day, expect everyone to applaud them. So let's get to the third one then, which is a bit more generic. This is called Wounds.
Yeah.
Which sounds a bit more generic. I doubt it will be, though, because it's from the director of Under the Shadow, Babak Navari.
I thought you were going to say What We Do in the Shadow.
No, that would be Taika, wouldn't
Yeah.
it? So this is Babak Navari directing. This stars Armie Hammer, Dakota Johnson, Zazie Beetz. Armie Hammer is a bartender who has a violent brawl break out in his bar. He finds a phone left behind, belonging to like a teen witness, a college kind of age witness or something like that. Takes it home, just kind of keeps it in his pocket, forgets, and then the phone starts going off and making threats, and his life starts to unravel.
So this is like Phone Box.
Kind of, but a little bit more texty. Text box.
Phone box for the modern age, people. No longer are you in a phone box in the middle of Times Square.
A
or
bit more
wherever that is.
Snapchatty,
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, I am baffled. The portfolio of actors in all 3 of these movies that are streaming is quite incredible. And if you blink, you'll miss it. In a way, which I think is a shame. So the marketing needs to be upped a little bit more to get us, as we would do, to go to the cinema. We need to see the investment on buses, on like all of our kind of banner ads online, all that kind of stuff to drive you to go and watch these movies, or they will get lost in everything else that Netflix has to offer.
However, just as a counterpoint, I was driving yesterday. I was
having a rant.
I was driving the motorway yesterday into a podcast interview with Seth Green. And because I'm 90s through and through.
Oh my goodness, I used to love Seth Green.
Everyone loves Seth Green. And he made the observation that the reason he was making films for streaming, he made a film that he thought would be better for a streaming platform, etc., which sounds awesome, by the way, was because cinema now is geared towards people who want to be part of larger, more immediate cultural conversation. So something like like Endgame. Whereas something like Netflix has its finger on the pulse by being a week later you are discussing it. And they're very different things. I thought that was kind of an interesting point.
That is an interesting point, but let me just remind you from the beginning of the show that Ang Lee thinks that 120 frames per second is a really good progression when it comes to movie technology.
Oh, you're so cutting this week, Becks. So cutting.
Well, when there's not a good solid week of films
you get
in
antsy.
the cinema, I get antsy, especially after a 5-star week.
Right, you sound like the subject of one of our films for next week, then.
Oh, good Lord.
Maleficent is back. God bless the scorned woman, she is back. So Mistress of Evil, otherwise known as Maleficent 2, in which Michelle Pfeiffer joins the roster this time.
Love Michelle Pfeiffer.
That's next week. We've also got Miss Kira back again.
Great.
Think she'll get another nom for this one?
No, hope not. Official Secrets. I'm so not a Kira fan.
Are you not?
No, I just don't think by pouting and looking like a model you can really act. If you're going to be a model, and I know she wasn't really, but she looks like a model, it's got to be Charlize Theron elements of that.
Fair. Okay, and on to our final one for next week, which I've been looking forward to with great aplomb. For I Am For Whom the Bell Tolls. It is Zombieland Double Tap. Zombieland 2, whatever you want to call it. I'm going with Zombieland Double Tap, and I can't wait. This is one of my most anticipated sequels of the year.
Well, I do love Woody Harrelson and Emma Stone.
Oh, yes. And even Jesse Eisenberg, a lot of fun in this. Big names joining the cast, like Luke Wilson, Thomas Middleditch, Rosario Dawson. Did you just laugh at Thomas Middleditch?
Yes. Thought you were going to say something else then.
No. Okay, so we got all those to come next week. We're going to have some fun. We'll rock it out.
Yeah, I'll be less grumpy because the films will hopefully be better.
You'll get some fun out of Maleficent, I'm sure. So that's kind of it for us this week.
That is indeed. But you know what? Stick to watching films on telly or go to the cinema to watch Joker and Judy. They're still out and they are brilliant.
And in the meanwhile, we'll be back to give you a whole new crop to pick from next week.